This is a video introducing the Piaget stage theory of cognitive development by Isabella Huang. At the very beginning, we need to have a clear vision of what the cognitive development is. The cognitive development is the construction of thought process, including remembering, problem solving, and decision making, from childhood through adolescence to adulthood. However, when it comes to the theory of cognitive development, we have to start with introducing this man, Jean Piaget. Piaget was a very famous Swiss psychologist who was a pioneer in studying children's development. The Piaget stage theory of cognitive development was considered as the most authoritative theory in developmental psychology in the 20th century. Piaget believed that the children can build their own structure of knowledge through these three processes: assimilation, accommodation, and equilibration. The Piaget stage theory of cognitive development is divided into 4 stages. They are the sensory motor stage from birth to 2 years old, the pre-operational stage from 2 years old to 7 years old, the concrete operational stage from age 7 to 12, and finally the formal operational stage from 12 years old and up. Let's start with the sensory motor stage, which is the first stage in the theory. Children who are in this stage learn the world by their sensory experience such as sucking, looking, listening, and touching. For example, when you play peekaboo with babies, their reactions will be very exciting. According to Cherry 2018, as the children are growing, they keep interacting with the world, and that's how they continually learn more about how the world works and what the world is. And meanwhile, they started to realize that their behaviors can actually make things happen to the world surround them, and thus the infants learn the consequence of action. For example, babies will cry if they feel hungry or want to sleep even though they cannot talk. But they know that if they cry, their parents will come and take care of them. According to Piaget in 1967, the main thing that children develop in this stage is object permanence, which means that children continue to learn that things continue to exist even though they cannot see it. For example, if you give a toy doll to a baby who is in this stage, then you take it away, the baby will not look for it because he does not realize that the toy is still existing. And Piaget believes that developing the object permanence is a very important element at this point of development. The next stage is the pre-operational stage, which occurs from 2 years old to 7 years old. Children who are in this stage begin to think symbolically and learn to use words and pictures to represent the objects. Eva Essa 1999 states that language and some symbolic actions are developed in the pre-operational stage as well. That's right, because we can see that the infants are also learning how to talk during this period of time. According to Piaget, children who are in this stage are very egocentric. Egocentric means that children just haven't figured out that other people actually have different points of view than they do, so they just only think of themselves. So how do we know that children are egocentric in the pre-operational stage? Jean Piaget created this experiment, the 3-mountain task, in order to find out that at what age children become the Santa. According to Motley 2009, in the task, a child faced a model of 3 mountains while a researcher put a doll at different positions of the table. The researcher asked the child to indicate the display from the doll's perspective, select from various of different pictures showing the doll's view, and identify a viewpoint for the doll specified by a picture of the model. The result is quite surprising. Most of the 4-year-old children cannot choose the correct photo, and they always tend to choose the one which represents their own points of view. However, only 7-year-old children choose the right photo. This demonstrates that children who are 7 years old or above are no longer egocentric because they understand others may have different points of view than they do. Let's move on to the next stage, the concrete operational stage, which occurs from 7 to 12 years old, and is the third stage in the theory. According to Jean Piaget, 1967, the concrete operational stage is an important turning point in the child's cognitive development because it marks the beginning of logical and operational thought. This is also the stage when the children learn the idea of conservation. According to McLeon 2010, Piaget used the conservation task to prove that children who are in different stages have different perceptions toward things. In the task, most of the 7-year-old children can conserve the liquid because they know that when water is poured into a different shaped glass, the quantity of liquid is still the same as before, even though it's in another bottle and it looks different. However, 5-year-old children think that there's a different amount of water because the appearance has changed. And in the task of conservation of number, Piaget set out a row of counters in front of the child and asked him to make another row the same as the first one. Then Piaget spread out the row of counters and asked the child if there were still the same number of counters. Most of the 7-year-olds answered this correctly. So, it comes to the conclusion that by the age of 7, children are able to conserve number. And children in this stage are old enough to think logically, but they can only apply logic to physical objects. Moving on to the final stage of the theory, the formal operational stage. This begins at the age of 12 and it lasts into adulthood. Ngazi 2014 states that in this stage, thinking becomes much more sophisticated and advanced. People develop the ability to think about the abstract concepts and the consequence of potential actions, and people also develop the skills such as logical thought and deductive reasoning. Piaget tested the formal operational by creating the third eye problem. He asked the children where would they put their third eye if they had one. According to Stauffer, 1986 report, most of the 9-year-olds said they would put it on the forehead, while the older children were able to come up with more creative ideas, like they would put it on the hand because it's more convenient. According to O. Jose 2008, the Piaget stage theory of cognitive development plays a very important role in children's education, especially mathematics. Teachers can make more specific plan on teaching and make the children participate in class in a great extent. Like in the pre-operational stage, it's more effective if teachers use more verbal language to teach the children. And in the concrete and formal operational stage, it's better to use performing experiment or testing of objects. So, this is the Piaget stage theory of cognitive development, and thank you for watching.